Welcome back to Weekend Express. Time now to take a look at what's making headlines on the dailies. We will also be taking a look at our weekend review. That is major headlines that have been making news over the weekend. In studio for this conversation, we have Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, who is the nominated Migori County Woman Representative under the ODM ticket. She is also a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Thank you so much for joining us on Weekend Express.
Thank you, Michelle.
And we also have Simon Kirubi, who is vying for the Karura Ward MCA position under the New Democrats Party. He's also an analyst for youth affairs and cyber security. Thank you so much for joining us on Weekend Express.
Pleasure.
So let's take a look at, first of all, what's making headlines on the dailies. And on the front page of the Standard there, this is my last battle, says Raila. So this, of course, comes from the ODM National Delegates Conference that took place yesterday. And that's a story that continues on page 10 and 11 of the Standard. So we saw a lot of promises being made by Raila Odinga. Among them was reducing the cost of living and the cost of housing in urban areas within 90 days of getting into office. Very promising promises, so to speak, Pamela. Your thoughts on these promises being made by Raila Odinga and how realistic they are?
Thank you very much, Michelle, and good morning, viewers. I think these promises, yes, they look hefty, but they're achievable. Because if you look at the issue of the cost of living, for some very strange reason, everything is very expensive in Kenya.
Right.
And if you trace the reason for their being expensive is that our oil industry is always high, the petrol and all that, and you know, manufacturers and everybody else take advantage of this now that the oil prices and the fuel prices are always high. Then the food, everything, because transportation, even if it's vegetables, it is transported from somewhere to somewhere. And so they think the consumer must bear the cost. And so if we bring the cost of oil down, like I think it should, owing to the realization that we have oil right in the country, then I think it is achievable.
Right.
In the case of housing, I remember some time back, there was this problem of slum dwelling and what have you. And while Raila was the Minister for Housing and I think something, he did some very commendable job. And I think the high-rises that we have in Kibera and even some part of Mathare came up very fast because of the plans that he had then and implemented. So I really think if somebody critically looked at why we are charging our consumers that much and dealt with that, then it can be brought down. I think it is possible.
Right. And I mean, you know, the bigger question is what intel does he have to reduce the cost of living and the cost of urban housing that the Jubilee administration, which is in power right now, does not have to its disposal? Simon, maybe your thoughts on this?
I think, first of all, thank you very much for hosting us. And Dr. Odhiambo, it's a pleasure to sit next to our professors and our mothers. And also the fact that we live in a generation or in a dispensation where we feel a time for, when you consider that 80% of the population of the Republic of Kenya is under the age of 35, it sends a message either to your children or to understand that a new day has come. To me, when we look at the headlines today at Standard, His Excellency, former Deputy President, Prime Minister Raila, promised about this is his last push. For us, either it was a promise or he's not. We, the youth, have decided the time for the young generation has come. So it does not matter at what dispensation one claims to what position they are. The issue of food costs, think of the drought that we've been facing too. So the question will always be, what is it that we can continue to do as young generations to be able to come together to solve complex problems together in concert? So there is a lot of, it's an exciting time, and you can see even the fresh wind that is blowing around Kenya about the young leaders who have been handpicked to run for this coming election.
Right. I mean, so the bigger question then would be, for the new entrants in the political scene, you, for example, are running on the New Democrats Party. That's a new entrance we're seeing in the political scene. And you're also vying for an elective position. What would you do? What is your plan for reducing the cost of living and making life easier for the youth?
I like to give examples, and I like to be practical. We started a small group of women who sell soap among themselves. The socio-economic environment that is coming, where socio-economy is the next big thing. People laughed at Uber. I remember an old good friend of mine, a taxi driver, used to call, asked him, how is Uber doing? He said, Uber is American, he will never succeed in the infancy. But now he's part of Uber. Things are changing. Think of the young little girl who ran away from home, 13 years old, because her mother took away her WhatsApp. Think of what M-Pesa is doing for us. Can you imagine if M-Pesa could have been irrelevant if we didn't have the technology that we are facing now. Now, to be able to talk about why I am running, I think the question is not what I'm running for, is why I am doing it. For me, if you look at some of the small income population in our area in Karura, at the Mudhongoro, we have about 38,000 population in that ward. And 18,000 of those live in the slum. And then 10,000 of those are small babies, under the age of 12. Unless we are able to take this group of women, just like what the success we've had also with things like temple banking in Kenya, which we continue to pioneer some of the best solutions in Africa, we feel that if I cannot raise 1,000 shillings, but I have 10 women, each with 100, we can achieve that.
Right.
So it's a matter of being able to sit down and articulate methods in how we will work together as communities to be able to raise enough resources to be able to achieve our complex problems, including water, sewer, and things of that sort.
Right, and speaking of communities coming together to achieve this, let's move to page 15 of the standard there. And there's a headline under there, NASA principles pursuit of power must be about citizens. And this isn't just about NASA, it's about across the political divide, really. And Pamela, let's talk about your thoughts on the politics we've seen at play in the past few weeks, in the past few months, and whether this really reflects that our leaders are doing this for the citizens.
Oh, okay, just maybe picking it up from where he left. The issue of reducing the cost of living is actually achievable. And what is going to happen is that in Kenya, all we need is appropriate technology. What I mean by this is like, I have a project, though done under research, but there's something I'm doing in Kenya with women, youth, and small-scale dairy farmers. And what I thought is that, what if we find some way of making these farmers add value to their own milk without selling it fresh to channel it elsewhere and things like that? Because keeping a cow is very difficult. But then in most parts of Kenya, they will be selling the product at 25 to 28 liters. And sometimes when there is plenty, they would even pour it out. Now, what I'm doing is that I'm teaching these people, I've been training them how to make yogurt right from home. And in some communities, it has just done a miracle.
Right.
What I mean, especially by through the youth, we have reached an era where every other person does not want to actually do some work with their own hands, use their skills and the technology available to produce something. Everybody wants to be buying. Now, in my thinking, like in Migori, where I come from, the resource that everybody has is land. And the truth is, most of the food that we eat come from land. So it is high time we brought aggressive, appropriate technology into issues of food production. Because if you look at our consumption rates, I think the highest consuming thing is the food. And this is what we call cost of living, including the housing and all that. Now, having said that, when we are talking about NASA principles, pursuit must be about citizens. Yes, it is about citizens. And that's why you had each of them who spoke is saying, we are not speaking here as Luos or just as lawyers or something, but we are speaking on behalf of Kenyans. The issues that our NASA principles are pursuing are actually things that are affecting the people down here. For example, somebody like Raila Amolo Odinga, I don't think if it is the issue of cost of living, then he himself should complain about it. Who is complaining about it? These small Pamelas and Marys and Otienos who are down here who cannot just make ends meet. And so it is the citizens. When we are talking about the issues of housing, who are lacking houses, it is the youth that come to Nairobi right now and they find it impossible to get somewhere to live. What if we created many Nairobis in the wilderness, as I always refer to it? Because there must be other things, just apart from job. There are other things that attract people to rather think it is easier to live and better to live in Nairobi. If you look at our entire country, the infrastructure, especially road network, when we go to the paper, sometimes our government boasts of accomplishing long distances of roads. But you take to actual driving on these roads, you don't see them. They are nowhere to be seen. Or this road is made, but before they leave here, there are serious potholes here. And you're wondering, what are we really doing? So if we turn our villages into satellite towns, like they have done in Germany, France, Americas, and the rest, then our young people, like he's saying, courtesy of the technology, I wonder if they would really see a reason to all of them come flock in Nairobi, and they are lacking food, they are lacking jobs, they are lacking houses. They will be able to create their own jobs wherever they are. And this is like for me in Migori County, the mind I'm going to speak to the youth, and even what I've been talking to them in class, is that I'm not teaching you here to go knocking on people's doors looking for a job. I want you to think, turn your knowledge, turn your skill into some service that people can actually look. For example, at JQAT, we do something I call landscaping. And you go into the wilderness and you see beautiful, gorgeous areas that can be made into beautiful things. So I know two of these guys, I told them what I want you to do when you live here, or even before you leave. Can you start going to schools or even churches and show them how beautiful they can make the environment? And these young people are already making a living out of this.
Right.
So every other school is looking for them. So the issue here is appropriate technology plus its application. That's what I mean. The knowledge that I have, the skill that I have, how can I make it to create something that will make somebody wonder, wow, this is so beautiful. How did you do this? Can you come do it for me? At small cost, then young people are busy creating their jobs and creating their money, and it's just awesome to look at.
So it's a very hands-on approach that both of you are talking about. You've been working with communities at the grassroots level. You've been working with youth and women at the grassroots level as well. But there's a very thin line, especially for the top level, the likes of Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, thin line between the promises they make and the implementation of those promises. So, Simon, at what point then does the electorate hold accountable these promises and the leaders making these promises to ensure that they actually implement them?
I think the key part has to be we as the popular vote in Kenya, the youth, we must deliberately create structures that will be able to help us to have a common goal, a common purpose, a common force, so that we can hold our leaders, their feet on fire, put their feet on fire for the promises they made. But we also have to learn from the international community. The dependence on government, it's something of the past. What is happening is, look at the biggest vehicles that push the biggest economy around the world. They're all private enterprised. They're entities, enterprises that push not only consumable or fast-moving goods or technology. Facebook is not owned by the United States government. Some of the biggest multi-billion-dollar companies are owned by private individuals or shareholders. So we need to be able to bring a new sentiment. The prevailing sentiment in Kenya must change, whereby everything is Sirikari's idea. Those days are over. So we need to be deliberately organized. Then by being organized, we'll be able to approach Professor Odhiambo and say, listen, I have a group of 10,000 women or young men that we are looking to achieve a particular policy. How do you help us achieve this at parliament level? Or how do we put our member of parliament at their spot to be able to achieve that we want? The end results, and I will tell you the truth, if we change how, look at what happened to Kabogo.
Right.
One, he's up 48%, the next weekend he's out. Maybe for a single tweet, for a single WhatsApp video. That's how, and that's where we are heading, whereby the masses are coming together to achieve a common goal.
All right.
And then, as you talk about the thin line between the promise and the implementation. Remember, right now we are talking of a devolved government or governance. And here, my thinking is our principles, the NASA principles, or whoever will be in power as from the 9th of August, this man must be able to really work as a manager who delegates and follows to see to it that it is done. I think this is where all our leaders have been failing, because it is like once somebody becomes the president and the government is at their disposal, it's like everybody else does what they like with whatever resources there are, and there's no accountability. This is why we have seen, like, remember when, sorry to mention this, but when there was this Waiguru case, you know, things were there, and at some stage she woke up like, it's not me, it's my accountant, and I was wondering, who told her that if it is the accounting or the finance manager in her docket did something wrong, then she is not answerable? Because I know, what I know about management is it is achieving objectives and goals, working together with people and through people to achieve these objectives, you know? And so my take is, I want to see a scenario where my principals can be in charge. There is this road in Lokichogio which is supposed to be tarmacked in the next 5 months. Is it done? So there is that daily connect that is always missing. Otherwise, all these things that they talk about, they're actually implementable.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So let's move away from that, because we'll continue that conversation a bit later on. Page 15 of the Standard, as we wind up with the paper, IBC appeal against constituency poll results misguided. And this is an opinion segment by Ken Opalo here. But of course, this week we had IEBC come out and appeal the court decision that decided that presidential election results announced at the constituency level would be final. Now, your thoughts on that, Pamela? Because many say that that appeal by IEBC was a mistake. Others say that that appeal by IEBC may also point to some sort of external influence that forced IEBC to later on appeal this decision. Your thoughts on the final constituency results for the presidential level? I
think it would be the most excellent idea. Why? Because having gone through the nomination process in Migori County, where we tried to have all the results announced at the polling station, to some extent, it helped a lot. What did it help? Each candidate, for example, myself, I had agents at those polling stations, and I had my mini tallying center, and every other candidate had. And I thought what it helped was, and if it is seriously done, it will help the issue of stuffing the ballots and transporting them here and there. I mean, it is fantastic. So I'm thinking, let IBC know that all we are asking for, or whoever is asking that these announcements be done at the constituency. It is also building the citizens' confidence in the concept of transparency, fairness, and free election, so that if we can have these announcements made at the constituency, it becomes easier even to now do the tallying at the county level. It is just the figures that are moving. It is not the ballot papers, so that some ballot papers that left, say, my Pinyoye polling station, when there were 20, they reach Nairobi or wherever they are going to be counted when there are 100 of them. You see, this kind of thing, I saw it can work, and work very well.
Right.
So to me, I think whoever is guiding them to refuse this is not helping Kenyans, because he has just said, today we are not dealing with a Kenyans that is totally ignorant. I know level of illiteracy is still very high, but there's also quite a majority of especially young Kenyans. These guys know. These guys can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they know Pamela got this in this constituency. So if you want to make it look like there is some other thing that is to be done for Pamela to be a winner, then it is creating a necessary recipe for chaos and protest that we really don't. I think IBC should embrace this idea and let this counting actually be done at the polling station, relayed to the ward, no ballot boxes moving, just figures, and to the constituency, tallied there, it is easier to work with these constituencies than work with all the polling stations.
Right. Simon, do you feel that the ABC has come out to cement trust in Kenyans really 3 months to the election?
Maybe the overall question should be asked. When we create these institutions, the IEBC and the rest of them, independent of whatever it is, we give them hands-free to be able to create rules that will govern us for whatever space they've been given. If they're in agriculture, we let them run the agriculture. If they're in lands, we let them run with lands. And then all of a sudden, we start mangling and getting involved in their everyday conclusions from a scenario of so many scenarios. So for me, as a representative of the youth, I will say this. The days of stuffing up ballots are over. It does not matter. Look at the scenario in Machakos. You had more people who voted in a primary than the actual registered members overall in the whole county. Look at those scenarios. What did the tribunal court say? Kick it out of the way. Back to square one. So the atmosphere or the wind has come that it does not matter. We will increase, and maybe you can know the scenarios or the numbers, that as we continue to increase the level of success in our elections, it doesn't have to be achieved at 100%, but we should continue to grow as a country whereby it's more credible.
Right. All right. So, I mean, this is something that continues to be debated, the credibility of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And of course, learning from the 2007 debacle, an indication there that, should Samuel Kivuitu and his team at the time have stamped the authority, then we may have avoided a situation that happened in 2007. Pamela, do you think then that Kenya needs to start looking at case studies in the case of Ghana and Nigeria, where we had the electoral bodies really try to cement their position and try to avoid interference by the big political parties?
Exactly. That is what this body needs to do. Because if it is really neutral, because this is the theory behind them not vying for any seat, they want to sit there and be real neutral judges. So if Pamela wins, they declare Pamela winner. I think our men and women in Kenya, much as we hold them with a high degree of esteem, they have not shown that they are women of integrity whose no means no and whose yes means yes. Because like the Kivuitu case, I strongly believe that if Kivuitu would have acted otherwise, we would have not seen. Why? Because look, in 2002, the overwhelming win for Kibaki was celebrated by everyone in the country. And he was sworn in such broad daylight. I saw men jump into water in their suits because they were happy. Now, come 2007, the once cherished president is now sworn in at night. You see, all this regalia really meant something is definitely wrong. Very, very wrong. And that's why we are saying, even I think yesterday I was commenting and saying something like, if you look at even the primaries that we have just ended, yes, I know all our bodies tried to their level best, but look at the number of people who decided, I'm going independent. While we may think that they are just disgruntled elements, but it has a volume to speak. It speaks that these people, or majority, may still are not believing in the independence of these electoral commissions. And it is their duty to stamp their independent authority and say no. I'm looking forward to a day that somebody will look at the face of the president and say, Mr. President, you are right, you have the money, you have the power, but because this is what either the rule says or the mandate of my job and what I also believe in as a person, I'm saying no to any persuasion. But what we have seen most of the time, it is like these people are put on the seat, but again, they never ever want to do something that is offensive to the highest person in the authority or in the power of the party or whatever, like in this case, the government. So this year is a litmus test for IBC. To be honest, IBC must prove that what they are saying, they are ready to walk the talk. And that's why even this appeal, they should actually forget about it. It is too late to come up with such appeal at this time when we are ready to go.
All right. Samuel, let's have your final thoughts on this before we move on to the Saturday Nation.
For me, I'll pursue history. Instead of pursuing history, I'll make history. the scenarios that have happened before, the 07s and the rest of them will live into history. But I will say this, the youth are at it. We look at the scenarios in Kiambu, the youth will be in charge. Think of a group that we created called Warembo na Uhuru. We are working from backwards, from all the way from the ward level to the polling station, all the way back. We have people keeping an eye so to make sure everything is credible. So I think we will have a good election. We will have a good percentage of credibility in it. Nothing is 100%, but we should be able to pursue it with vigor and commitment and the love of country.
All right. So let's move on to the Saturday Nation before we wind up with our paper review. And on the front page, of course, Raila's pledge to Kenyans. We've already tackled that. But let's move on to also on the front page, Jubilee to endorse Uhuru for re-election. That's a story that continues on page 5 of the paper. So today, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto will officially be unveiled by their party as the candidates for the August 8th general election, and this is to kickstart their re-election bid, so to speak. So yesterday we had Raila Odinga also being unveiled by the ODM party. Pamela, what do you think we are likely to witness now as a country in the political scene in this presidential contest?
It will be tough and very stiff because as it were now, Jubilee duo, Uhuru and Ruto, are in power and in government. So they have all the machineries and everything. But on the other hand, Raila and team also are strong, and as it were, they have the numbers on their side as at now. And I know it will be a real spirited fight and fight for the presidential seat. And I think we are about to witness a very aggressive campaign.
Right, and remember, this is the same lineup that we've seen before. We've seen Raila pitted against Uhuru Kenyatta before, and there's been a lot of criticism as to the fact that they've been in politics for quite a long time. 3 months to the election, we're still not quite sure what it is they stand for, what it is they represent. A majority of the electorate still wondering who to vote for, or whether they will be choosing between the lesser of the two evils. Simon, in terms of articulating the issues to Kenyans, in terms of propagating issue-based politics, are we on the right track?
Yes, we are. Politics are all local. The politics, the issues of what happens in Kisumu, Migori, or Karatina, or Turkana will all be based on the challenges. Think of Kilifi, women getting snake bites in 2017, dying of snake bites. That's a challenge that I don't face in Nairobi. So for me, when you look at the overall approach, we feel the electorate, and Professor can allude to this, the electorate are more educated now than the years before. Think of age that is coming to be eligible to vote. And I would like people to look at what happened in Kiambu. This is an amazing scenario. Also, don't forget what Commander did. After he thought he won, or whatever he has won, whatever case happened, he decided to concede for Jaguar. That was something credible. That probably, if you look at history, he will be judged by that decision. Not for what he has done for his people, which he has done a lot, but he will be remembered for that. When a time came for him to bow, he took that chance. So I will say this is probably will be one of the most exciting election we'll ever face, because you're having the technology whereby I can communicate to someone in a professor's backyard from a tweet right now. I can send a tweet or a text message to them on the ground, and I don't need to make any phone calls. So the speed in which things will happen will continue to make the electorate more powerful, and then it will also create an atmosphere whereby the leaders themselves will be held accountable. What county almost removed almost all of their MCAs? Was it in...
I believe even Kiambu County was among the ones that...
Even Nairobi
90, 80% in the up.
57 out of 60 MCAs locked
Amazing.
out.
Yeah, and just to add on that, I think the issue here is not really articulating what it needs to be done. You know, what we have seen as the pillars of each of these campaigns is a real summary of what these both parties think they stand for. But as he says, it is local. because like I've said, in Nairobi, you know, if you talk about roads, it's just a matter of maybe smoothening them, but they're already there, they exist, or enlarging them. In some places, there is none at all. And so the issue here is addressing the particular need of the people that you are vying from. And I think the clarity of what these people stand for, according to me, it is clear. Like right now, if you saw what Raila is crying about, it's the cost of living, the prices of simple commodities like unga, you know, and this is something that really touches people's heart. And even in the central province, which is the bedrock of the president himself, I think the truth is, even them, they are crying. Ask me why. Right now, as we sit here, in fact, I've just seen a small writing in the Standard. Somebody saying, could we be losing our grip on the tourist industry to our neighbors? Which I say, yes, it is happening. I happen to come from the border, and I'm close to Tanzania. And even before then, through my university, I've been a frequent visitor to Arusha and things like that. There are a number of tourists in Uganda, in Tanzania. We don't have them anymore in Kenya. So tell me, the people from Central have been always seen as the owners of the wealth and the investors of this country. Their hotels are empty. Nobody is eating there, you know, and they are suffering. They are suffering in silence, some silence. So if somebody can address that issue to bring the tourists back, I think that is the man to go for. And that's why I'm saying the voters should know that whatever they are seeing on papers is a summary, but in details, like when we go out campaigning and explaining why we should elect Raila and throw out this current government, they understand. And this is why they still have the faith. In fact, much as we keep saying that Raila has been on the lineup so what, I want to say personally, if you ask me, why am I still supporting Raila? There is a bit of consistency in what Raila has been looking for in this country, which has not actually happened. Every other election year, we have some precedent. Like right now, Jubilee, Uhuru and Ruto, what did they tell us? They said there was supposed to be laptops in every primary school in the nation. I come from a county where even the internet, much as you are talking of tweets, you will not tweet me in Migori and we communicate. There is no network.
Maybe Safaricom is the problem.
Yes, and why is Safaricom a problem? Because I know, as we sit here today... But
it's not Uhuru the problem.
Wait.
It's the Safaricom.
Uhuru is the problem. I said delegation with follow-up. You know, when somebody comes to your land, and we are basing our learning on Safaricom's platform, and we want to do it countrywide, and then in some places, there is no network. So they should take responsibility. You should tell them, you are lying to me and lying to my people. I'm not just a president of the people in Nairobi. I'm a president of the people in Turkana. I'm a president of the people in South. I am a president of the people in Migori County. And that's why I'm saying, whichever president that we are electing, like I know we are electing Raila, must be hands-on and must make sure that all public leaders, all private entities must do things in a manner that will help us achieve the dreams and whatever we are pledging to the people.
All right, a lot of optimism there,
can I choose
Simon,
to differ?
please, yes. Go
ahead.
I
choose to differ with the professor with all due respect? The last time I checked, Uhuru is not the CEO of Safaricom. Okay, the government has no business in what they do is sell a license to somebody, and the private sector is responsible for creating the infrastructure for people to execute their business. But to some of it, there is an element of responsibility to the leadership. Because when you think of and I would say, how can one company control a particular percentage of the overall network in a country? To me, it's not acceptable.
And that's why I'm blaming Uhuru for it.
Can I finish, Professor, with all due respect?
Let's have Simon finish.
Yes, because when you think of it is this, there is no, you know, sometimes when you've lived overseas, you can put someone on hold as you do something. In Kenya, you can't put anybody on hold. The cost of putting someone on hold on your line is too expensive. Why? Because I don't find it very conducive for the young people. Think of what we can be able to immerse with young people if they are connected 100% of the time. And it's true. Maybe in Migori or other places, in some parts of Central, we have issues with all the other parts of the country, or Turkana have issues about the network. But let's look things at the perspective of whereby the prevailing sentiment is very simple. Safaricom is a big player in the game, but also we should continue to push them through technology and through coming together as a generation, whereby they can make it continue to make it cheaper for us to be online, because data.
But the question, Simon, would be then, who does the buck stop? Because the Kenyan goes to the polls to vote for the president, and they expect that the president will ensure that they have good network connectivity, that they have good electricity. So when they do not, who do they hold accountable? Do they hold KPLC and Safaricom, or the person that they voted for?
The issue is, you can't tell me that we blame Safaricom. Safaricom never said that our children will be learning based on their internet. They are here to make money. Our president did. And so, if Safaricom is not able to deliver, he has the right to even cancel their license. Why must we operate at the mercy of Safaricom as Kenyans? The issue here is being realistic. Because if you asked me, to be honest, the issue of laptop is a big fuss that should have been thrown out completely. Why? Because as we sit here today, some of those children in the Kenyan primary schools do not have a classroom over their head. How do you talk about laptops? And that's why we are saying the unrealistic nature of some of our leaders must go.
For sure.
All right,
must go.
Let's hold that thought. Remember that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto will today be officially unveiled by the Jubilee Party as the president and running mate for the August 8th general election. And this will be taking place at the Bomas of Kenya. Duncan Haemba is already there, keeping an eye on the situation, and now joins us live. Haemba, good morning. Talk to us about the preparations that are ongoing at the Bomas of Kenya and what we expect for the better part of the day.
Michelle, good morning. Everything is going on as per the schedule. I was just talking to the top security official here because it's not easy. When you have a look at, I think I'll have to move this way. This is the queue that we are having here. Anybody coming in, they are being subjected to this particular security checkup. This is a presidential function. Therefore, you expect nothing short of top security that has been beefed up to the hilt. Therefore, first of all, driving in, only few selected vehicles are allowed in. And the point where I am is particularly where our vehicles have actually ended. Even for the outside broadcasting vans, with the moment you reach here, you are informed. If you need security, they drive in with you, you offload whatever you need, and then it has to come back here. Only President Uhuru Kenyatta's convoy, Deputy President William Ruto's convoy will be allowed actually to go past this particular point, except such vehicles for the live broadcast that they cannot unmount the equipment. Those are the only vehicles that are allowed to go beyond that point. So that explains exactly what is happening. But as you can see the line that is stretching, everybody is queuing here, whether you are an elected leader, whether you went in and opposed, whether you are county delegate, whether you are party official, they have to queue. Then the moment they reach this particular tent is now where the moment they reach this particular tent, this is where they are now separated. There are now three lists there, of course, for the sitting area, the member of parliaments or the sitting elected leaders, and then county delegates, and then party interim officials. That is where they are doing the separation. And there's some kind of confusion because apparently only one list was actually submitted here, and it's giving officials some hectic time. But remember that they have to be thorough just to ensure that nobody is allowed to go past this point if they are not cleared. Therefore, you either have to be a top party leader, you have to be an accredited delegate, you have to be a bona fide member of the party to be allowed in. That is how serious they are taking matters. And if I can just move with the Nebat this way, that is the security that you are witnessing here. These are some of, I think, the technical team that are just walking in to go and set up their various outside broadcasting vans. Therefore, as I said earlier, no vehicles that are allowed here. And that is the kind of security. That gentleman is the one in charge of security here. Therefore, you come here, he is the one that has a final say on who goes in. But this is a presidential function. You expect nothing short of that. So that is how things are here, but we are witnessing to see which are some of the elected members or sitting members of parliament that will come and queue, because we've been told that even MPs, whether you are elected, whether you are an aspirant who's gone in and opposed, you'll have to queue here so that you are cleared like any other delegate attending the Jubilee National Delegates Convention for you to be allowed to get into the auditorium. Michelle.
There for the better part of the day, but maybe talk to us about the importance of this particular NDC, because we already know that President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto will be going at it together. So what is the importance of this NDC, and what will we be expecting?
This NDC is very, very critical. As per the law, as per the constitution, once you've been given a go-ahead to contest as a presidential candidate for any party, the national delegates have to formally ratify that decision or endorse you. So for President Uhuru Kenyatta, we've witnessed the merger of Jubilee Party. We've witnessed the launch of various, his nomination as its flag bearer. But this particular convention has to sit so that it goes down and record as per the law that on the 6th of May 2017 at the Bomas of Kenya, Jubilee's national delegates unanimously proposed and endorsed that one President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta becomes its presidential flag bearer in the 2017 general election. That is very, very important. That is as per the law. In as much as it is given, he has no competitor, he has no opponent within Jubilee, but the delegates have to sanction, then say that they've confirmed that he is their presidential candidate, and they've unanimously agreed. So it's very, very important. It's similar to what happened yesterday at Boma, at the Kasarani Gymnasium, whereby we saw the ODM party formally endorse its party leader Raila Odinga, of course having been given a nod by initially the National Governing Council of his party, then having come to an agreement with other principals within NASA. Therefore, the party had also to formally endorse. So Jubilee will be doing the same. And we understand other parties, remember that in September, as much as other parties had merged, dissolved to form one big party called Jubilee Party, other friendly parties that have refused to merge, but they will support President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election, will equally be having their separate NDCs. And we understand that is where the president will be beginning his, we'll call them whistle stops or the stopovers in various NDCs before he eventually comes here at the Bomas. Michelle.
All right, many thanks, Duncan Hemba. We'll be coming back to you a bit later on for more details. Duncan Hemba there joining us live from the Bomas of Kenya, where the Jubilee National Delegates Convention will be taking place. President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto will officially be unveiled as the party's flag bearers. And here in studio, remember Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, who is the nominated Migori County Woman Representative, and Simon Kirubi, who is vying for the Karura Ward MCA position under the New Democrats Party, are here with us in studio. And I'd like us now to shift gears from the paper review for a moment, just before we wind up, because with the entrance of devolution, then was the creation of positions like MCA, positions like woman representative. But there's a very, thin line among Kenyans as to the job or the job description of each of the positions. So maybe let's begin with you, Pamela, with regard to the job description of a woman representative. Many think that a woman rep is meant to represent women in the county. What is the job of a woman representative?
Wow. I think a lot more needs to be done to explain this concept of devolution and these many positions that were created. Mm-hmm. The woman rep's position is, I see it as dual kind of objective. There is the constitutional function, 3 of them, representation of the women, the youth, and the vulnerable groups or the disadvantaged groups, which comprise the people living with physical disabilities, and the orphans, the widows, the minorities, the senior citizens, these very old people. Mm-hmm. So this is the kind of constituency that the woman represents, the woman representative takes care of in Parliament. So they are supposed to to voice their cries and their needs. So it's supposed to be a spokesperson on behalf of these people in parliament from all over the county. Number two is legislation. Here, the woman representative is actually supposed to formulate, present, and even push for laws and policies, regulations that would move towards bettering the status of these very represented groups, like empowering of the women, the youth, and such like things. So when we are talking of it, some of those policies, like the 2/3 gender rule and the 30% given to women and youth, or otherwise in terms of procurement issues, any jobs, positions in the county or the country at large, and such like things. So they are supposed to push for those kind of agenda. And then finally, once these policies are made, then the woman representative is supposed to play a supervisory role to ensure that these regulations and policies are enacted to the letter. So they're supposed to follow up now with the governors, the MPs, and the MCAs to make sure that the areas where they come from, these policies are actually enacted, geared towards empowering these groups that she is representing. Now, that is as far as the parliament and the constitutional mandate of the woman rep is concerned. But then when you go back to the counties where they represent, you know, you cannot talk of empowering people and then you don't do something to elevate their current status.
Status of living,
so
right.
they are supposed to involve in activities that are actually aimed to practically empower the said groups. For example, for myself, I look at it this way. How do I empower my youth? How do I empower my women? One, and first and foremost, I think information is very important. Like we've just said, there are parts of the country where now people have the information at fingertip, but there are others where they have none. And in the absence of information, what happens? People develop rumors, lies, and gossips of all sorts, and they are not able to make decisions. So key to me on my agenda, as far as now work on the ground is concerned, I think I will need to come up with strategies and things to put in place, or some resource center that can just inform these constituents that I'm talking about. So I intend to give them timely, adequate, relevant information
to
help them make decisions. Then you are the woman rep is supposed to engage in activities and projects that can actually give practical solutions. For example, what I've been doing, training youth groups, women groups, and farmers to produce something, to do something for themselves that will bring food to their table. And this way, we will be tackling the concept of joblessness, like in the case of the youth. We'll be tackling poverty, we'll be tackling health issues. For example, what I'm doing with this milk, it is a probiotic culture that is very good for the general health of the body.
Right.
It boosts the natural immunity system. And so when these people are fed on healthy food, they can sell some of it. Those entrepreneurial activities and business mind conscious, that will lift their burden of, I don't have money, I don't have that.
Right, so that is a job of
so
a woman
the job is dual. There is that constitutional role in parliament or wherever these policies are made, and pushing for the agenda of these groups, and at the same time engaging in activities that would actually provide practical solutions to the problems on the ground.
All right, because there's been a lot of debate as to whether these positions should be scrapped, but the bigger debate has been on the position of member of county assembly, which you are running for, Simon.
Yes.
I believe for the Jubilee Party, out of about 8,000 aspirants, more than 6,000 of them are running for the position of MCA. Many say it's because of the monetary incentives that lie in that position. But what is the job description of an MCA?
For me, I think we need to back up a little bit and look at the holistic of these positions and why they were created.
Right.
The system works. It has worked in other countries. Sometimes we were laughing, we say it was a duplicate. Our constitution is a duplicate of United States constitution. Now, let's go back and look back again to what we were talking with the professor. Really, let nobody lie to themselves that the fact that they're sitting on machinery, either in power or whatever, they will win. Look at the scenario in the United States. Hillary Clinton had everything and everything going for her. She never won. Well, she won the popular vote with 3 million, but maybe the calculations on the Electoral College didn't work out very well for them. Now, the other thing I need to mention about, let's go back to what we were talking about Safaricom so that I can come to your question, is that poverty has no color. One of my friends who's my bodyguard has always been a gentleman. I have never asked him, what is your mother tongue? What do you speak? How do you eat your food? Because he has no value to me. Does he have the character of a person that I want to be with as long as God keeps me? So that brings me I want to be a convicted leader, that when I wake up, as she alluded to, that I am convicted. My conviction is nothing else but to which, first of all, this should not be a money-making machine. If you would ask me, and we will continue to control both houses as time goes by. We have a 21-year-old running in Nyeri for the Senate, and he's ahead. When you factor what the youth are saying, and look at the popular vote for the youth. So what we are saying is this: a time is coming for us whereby these positions should be diluted so much so that they have no value for you to come in. But you come to serve the public. You go out there, become the doctor, or become the Kirubis, or the gymnast, or Biambo up in Nakuru, whereby, or the other gentleman who just been elected in an area where he does not even belong, so to say, to the history. But to me, I am saying, let's look why these people are being elected. And we're sending up the message to the youth. If someone is giving you money to come in, trust me, this is a business transaction. They will have to get a refund. And you know who's going to go pay for it? It's you. So for me, I think the position is not so much, it's why we do it. And that's why we need new leadership, people of conviction, to be able to execute that mandate they're being given by the people.
But what then is the mandate of the MCA? Because like you mentioned, in most of the counties, a majority of the MCA have been hounded out of office. It must be an indication that they're not doing something right, that the electorate is not happy with the position that they've been doing. So just before we come to you, Pamela, your thoughts on this position, MCA? Okay,
I think I want to pick it from somewhere where I think my friend diverted a little bit, but he was on the right track. The issue was, what was the concept of devolution? What was the concept of this creation of these positions? In a nutshell, it was to bring services and resources down to the community level and to every household. Now, the position of an MCA is that critical. In fact, this is supposed to be the true community leader. So that if you come in an area, for example, again, my county, very interesting, a very potential county, but a dormant giant. Now, we have land that is not even demarcated. And so this is the age of my land, somebody else's land takes over. And sometimes we want to access somewhere and there is not even an access road. So in the interest of devolution, look at the concept of the infrastructure, road infrastructure. There is these roads that are supposed to be taken care of by the national government. There is these roads that are supposed to be taken or by the governor. The national government acts through the MPs. The governor is supposed to take care of certain roads, major roads within the county. But then these small feeder roads and the inlet roads to people's homes and small markets, places, in the village. Who is supposed to take care of them? That becomes the mandate now of the MCA, who is actually supposed to even make the people understand that, hey, Chege and Kamau, in between your land here, there is need to be an access road and open up the space. The MCA is supposed to check through the local ministry of water. Is there clean water in these villages? How do they work with this person? And also connecting to the national government on the issue of clean drinking water in our homes. So the issue is, what I think we should be saying today, why the MCAs are being thrown out. Much as I have not been one of them, but I have the intelligence of the ground. These people, both the MCA, the MP, the governor, the women rep, the senator, somehow people went into these positions without really taking care to understand what is really their mandate, what is really their job. So what the people have been expecting has been frustrated by a kind of back passing, that this road is not made. When I go as a women rep, the women are crying and the old wazes are saying, hii barabara yetu ndio ututengeneze ukienda. I have had to stop and say, hey, I have to inform you first. This barabara is not within my mandate.
Right.
The best I can do is to tell the MCA or the MP or whoever, because now I know who is concerned, to tell, hey, this road needs to be made. And now that's the voice that I was talking about.
Right.
I have to speak on their behalf.
Simon,
so my call to all people who are coming in, let each person understand their role. If we did all our role, then our society will be a better one.
Right.
I
Someone
can
also
promise you
brings in
that.
another perspective in terms of diluting the incentives that these positions hold. So whoever vies for these positions is there because they want to do something for society. But do you think this is something that is implementable in the country in terms of especially the financial, the monetary incentives that lie within these positions?
I think it is, though I don't want to call it diluting. The issue is, for every position, there is a prescribed salary for the said officer. There are allowances for the said officer and what is theirs as individual. Now, the issue here is when we become strict, we know our roles and we know the resources that this officer has been given for purpose A, B, C, D. Then the issue goes back to that follow-up of ensuring that that resource is used for the right purpose. And that way, then we will have people who are coming in to serve and not, because what has been happening, all these people, most of them, hoarded the resources that they received to do services to the people.
Right.
And that's why people are annoyed with them. Because the people, I said, the people know, especially those who are coming from areas where people know, it is most dangerous for them. Because they know. Some of these people have taken the pain. You are not an MCA, but you have taken the pain to wonder with the Constitution, what is the role of this guy? And you can interpret it. You don't need a lawyer to interpret it for you. So you look at it and you know, you can also read the budget. You know your governor was given this much. The governor can give their records and say, I gave every MCA this much. And you can follow up. And that's where Kenyans have now just come and said, okay, guy, you think we don't know. We know. You ate all our money, go away.
And we've begun to see that in the primaries that just concluded.
Yes.
Simon, what shift then do you think is being created and is likely to be witnessed in August with the electorate seemingly a lot more aware of what's happening now?
There's a wake-up call coming to people who have been around for a while. And we thank them for building the bridges they have done. You know, I'll give a quick example. Think of some of the great leaders that have been working for us in places like Wamalwa, the late Wamalwa. And now Commander is on the way out, so to say, but he'll still be involved, whatever capacity. But I feel the time has come for this generation, that generation that used to be told, you are the future generation, the future is now. And we are using a hashtag, we are calling it enough ya kupangwa, because we've been pangwad for so many years, being told you are the future, you are the future. But also, I think now we've been able to be given enough time, and time has worked itself out by giving us some of the solutions like the technology that is helping us to be able to articulate solutions. Yesterday, we wanted to distribute posters in one of the candidates in Nyeri. In less than 1 hour, we were able to distribute 10,000 posters in less than an hour. And people were donating their own unga to go and post the posters for the candidate. So this is the future that is coming. You don't have to have the money. If you have the heart of the public and of your locals, people will vote you in. How many people have been voted in? Watchmen, Mkokoteni, and they're coming in. Yes, they will need help. And I also stand with what Sonko said. Let's say he becomes the governor. He will have to hire someone who's a technocrat to be able to support, because running a city, you know, Nairobi for me is not a, Nairobi is Kenya. So what happens here will happen in Kenya. So I feel the timing is perfect for a revolution that will also, we will have to vote common sense. this election.
All right, and speaking of the timing and a revolution coming, let's wind up with the concept of independent candidates. A lot has been said about this, but we're seeing now an emergence. More than 1,000 aspirants who are locked out of the nominations are now going at it independently, but we've also seen very popular political figures coming out to go at it independently. Pamela, let's talk about the shift this is going to create in the general elections, especially in terms of dividing the votes.
Wow. Two messages that I read from this. Parties of all sorts need to style up. And if we are pushing IBC to be independent, fair, transparent, then this must percolate down to the party organs. That is, if I was to own a party today, I think that is what I will insist on doing, so that once I have my members, I must build the confidence in them that what we are doing is in the interest of everyone. Number two, parties or individuals, everybody in the nation has learned or should learn that people have reached a level where once somebody is convicted and they feel they can do it, and others have also had faith in them, then the individuals are now capable and strong enough to come out and speak for themselves. I think these are two major lessons I'm drawing from what I've seen. And so, like you had my presidential candidate Raila Amolo say, he said this: we will not really condemn them. We will allow them to express their democratic rights. And I think I loved that. What he told me is that he's not going to be bitter. The party is not going to be bitter because somebody has gone independent. And this makes me think that we have moved. Like what I thought, most of these party boards must have been operating like we are in 2013. But the 5 years have meant a lot. People have seen so much. People have learned. People have built their territories. And it will be necessary next time that these people, whoever is mandated on behalf of the parties to carry out those nominations, must really be intelligent enough and have genuine ground intelligence. Because for somebody, in fact, some people will make it, and sometimes people will be surprised. And my thinking is, much as we want to invite these people, and like me, I want to invite my people in Migori County who are going independent to still support my presidential candidate, I think the parties must learn that we need to do a more robust kind of research and more robust system that is unchallengeable. A totally unchallengeable system of identifying who the candidate is.
All right, all right. Simon, let's have you close your closing comments, especially in the entrance of independent candidates now in the political scene.
I think for me it's exciting because there is an underbelly that is sweeping across homes in Kenya and as a society, whereby we are becoming a global village, that we are involved in transactions that happen from around the world in minutes. Now, the youth have understood one thing, that we are no longer tribal, we are no longer from this cluster, we are one tribe under the influence of who we are and our mother Kenya. So with that said, if people thinking that they will be able to count on that particular cluster they've been counting on for many years, they're wrong. Things have shifted. We will vote people's character, and for sure we will vote common sense. And that's why, think of what we are doing in our party. We have given youth direct nominations with no money.
Right.
That they have what it takes to win on the ground, but they don't have the resources, which has been the choke point for most of the people in the past elections. But we have eliminated that by creating it. We give you a direct nomination. If you can prove to us, you will be a player in the game. And that's why you have a 21-year-old going against a billionaire, which we feel will be a hallmark for this election, whereby anybody has a chance to win. Either you push a mkokoteni or you are a watchman. But again, say like what Sonko said, I might not be able to handle billions, but I will hire someone who can handle them. So I'm very excited. And
But again,
yes,
that may be very risky, brother. It is a nice statement to the ear. And I was saying something here that I've also seen, which baffles me. When I am the person who should take the responsibility, then I'm not able to do it, so I ride on the fact that I will hire somebody else. I think, to be honest, a good leader, a good manager must have the technical, at least some bit of technical understanding of what it is that they want to do.
But that's not how revolutions work.
No.
They go against that trend.
We are talking about revolutions,
Yeah.
but the question is, you know, we have seen it in the past, brother. When you are the person, the president, or the governor for that matter, and then you know nothing about what is supposed to be done, and I know it. You know, in leadership, we talk of various issues. Why is somebody a leader? You know, somebody can easily do crazy things. And you know, when you ask them, you say, yes, I'm the technocrat. You know, you have nothing to do with it. And yet things are going wrong. So my appeal is, what Sonko is advancing is fine. But I want him to take it a notch higher. He himself must have the idea, really, what does he want to do with Nairobi?
All right.
But you see, can I say something? The mindset has always been that professor, that guy, the educated guy, is the one who's going to lead us. Where have they taken us? Where?
All right.
But the
This is a conversation that we'll have to continue a bit later on. We're out of time, unfortunately. Thank you so much for joining us in studio, Dr. Pamela Adhiambo, nominated.
No parting shot.
Migori County. All right, let's have your final, very briefly, 2 seconds.
2 seconds. My parting shot is very simple. To the people outside there watching me in Kenya, I really want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on this platform. And especially the people of Migori County, thank you so much. But I'm appealing to the people of Kenya to vote in righteousness, character, value, ability and capability to implement things that will alleviate the suffering of the people of Kenya.
All right.
Thank you.
For my parting shot, can I have my parting shot? I'll say, because I respect Professor, what she has said is good enough. And as a society, we say the eldest always have the final shot. And thank you very much, Professor, for sharing the floor with me.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. That is Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, who is the nominated Migori County Woman Rep under the ODM ticket. She's also a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. We've also been speaking to Simon Kirubi, who is vying for the Karura Ward MCA position under the New Democrats Party. He's also an analyst for youth affairs and cyber security. Many thanks for joining us on Weekend Express. And that's where we wind up. But news just in, Olympic